If you're going through a period where you're having a hard time trusting or relying on yourself, maybe because in the past you did some things that you're not so proud of or you weren't your highest self, this reading is for you. The cards that came out are beautiful. They're helping you understand what you need to forgive, but also how you can use that experience so that you will stop beating yourself over the head and be able to rely and trust yourself once again. Let's dive in. So for today's theme, what are we going to talk about? Interesting. The Six of Swords. And the Six of Swords is all about leaving choppy waters, chaos, conflict, challenges, maybe more like this kind of energy, to calmer, smoother waters, going up here to this rainbow. So that's the theme. Now let's think about what is the focus, because that could go in so many different directions. Let's see. Oh, interesting. Okay, we got the Father of Pentacles. So the Father of Pentacles is all about somebody who is very reliable, somebody who's very grounded, somebody that you can really trust. And so what I'm getting here is maybe you've gone through a period where you were going through conflict and chaos and you're moving out of it. But as you are, you're having a hard time becoming this Father of Pentacles. Interesting also to note the rainbow imagery at the top of the card. And the reason I'm feeling like you're having a hard time becoming this Father of Pentacles and somebody that you can really trust and rely on is like, look at the way this deer, or I don't know what it is exactly, is looking. It seems a little hesitant, as if it's like not really trusting its own power, trusting that rainbow that's up there, a little bit daunting. So yeah, I'm getting from here that maybe there's been some stuff in the past. Maybe there was something that you did in the past. Maybe maybe you were not your highest self in the past. And as a result, you're coming out of that period. But as a result, you're kind of like thinking back on yourself a lot, and instead of using this experience to grow, you're almost beating yourself too much over the head about it. And also that's interesting because swords have to do with our thoughts and our thought patterns, and it's almost as if you're in a heap down here, kind of like, the chaos and the conflict was so tough, but you're stuck there, you're stuck in that heap, and you're kind of like then doing too much mental work where you're thinking too much about that and kind of like focusing on what you did wrong and what you could do now and how you would maybe do things differently, instead of just being able to rise up above that and get out of that energy and get up here with the rainbow. So I'm curious, actually, what is it that you actually need to forgive yourself about? Because I'm curious what that could be. Oh, okay, interesting. The Moon card. Wow, that's so beautiful. The moon is all about basically not seeing clearly, because unlike when the sun is shining down, you see things really bright and clear. So the moon is sometimes about, feeling as if you don't have all the information and you're kind of like lost. So what it is, it seems that you need to forgive yourself where you were in the past, or maybe when you were maybe making those wrong decisions, or the things that now you kind of regret or see differently. It's almost like you just need to forgive yourself that you were not seeing clearly at the time, that you just didn't have all the pieces of the puzzle, and that in a way you were acting the best you could at the time. So it's almost like you just need to forgive yourself from just not being where you are now. And I get how that can be tough sometimes. Like, I know, especially when we're going through our spiritual journey and we're like learning a lot, sometimes we can beat ourselves over the head for past things, or just the way we were, the way we thought about things. And gosh, why did I see it that way? Or why did I say that? Or why couldn't I have reacted this way? Because now you would. So yeah, I think it's about releasing and forgiving yourself, of actually just remembering that you were learning and growing. And in a way, it's almost like, when you go to school, you're in third grade and you know less than when you were in fourth grade. But does that mean you need to beat the little third grader over the head and say, gosh, why don't you know everything that the fourth grader knows? You will know everything that the fourth grader knows, just later. And so you need to accept almost that as we learn and as we grow, we will go through moments that we don't know as much as we do now. And same now, we don't know as much as we will know in the future, but it doesn't mean that we need to be mean to ourselves or really kind of focus on that. We should actually probably be focusing on the future. So I'm curious, actually, what can you do to help yourself learn to forgive yourself? Let's see what comes out for that. Interesting. We got the Four of Wands. And the Four of Wands is all about celebration and homecoming. And what I'm getting here is that I think it's about one of the ways you can forgive yourself is to start celebrating what you have learned and celebrate the fact that, like, instead of seeing it as like, oh, well, I didn't know this, and so like I should have done things different. It's like celebrate the fact that now you do know those things, and so you would do it differently. And that's actually why you're seeing that situation maybe in a different light, is because you have learned and grown. If you hadn't learned and grown, you wouldn't even be judging that past. So it's almost like you need to start seeing those and kind of celebrating the small steps. Again, it's like when we go to school, celebrating the fact that like we graduated to the next grade, instead of seeing it as like, oh, well, I was more dumb in the third grade. No, it's like, well, I learned a lot through the third grade. I'm going to celebrate that year instead of seeing it as like me being in a worse position. I also think it's interesting. I think that judgment is definitely seen in this card, because I always find that this Four of Wands in this particular deck, the Wild Unknown deck, it really looks like an eye. It definitely looks like an eye judging you, kind of like the eye of that Father of Pentacles. Again, just this kind of like judgment of like, do I trust you? Can I trust you? And I think it's about stopping that judgment and stopping that eye, and instead like looking at yourself as somebody who's learning and growing, and cherish that. Cherish the fact that you've grown, and see it in that light, instead of being focused on everything that you were not doing right the way you used to be. Focus on actually what you can get up here, if you're like, because that's where you're growing towards. So now I'm curious, actually, to close the reading, I'd like to know, like, well, so what can you do to start trusting yourself more and to start loving yourself more? What can you do? Okay, two cards wanted to come out. We got the Two of Wands and the Four of Swords. And the Two of Wands is basically a card of exploration and kind of future planning. And again, actually, it's interesting to note that the rainbow colors are coming back, and that it's linked to the future. So again, it's that thing of like, stop focusing on the past and what you should have done and how you wish you had been, and focus on what you can do now, because now you have these wands in your hand and you can point them in the direction that you want. So to remember that you have that power. So it's about like looking towards the future and not looking so much towards the past, focusing on what you can change and how you can continue to grow, and not focus on everything that you were not. I also think this is such a beautiful card too. It's the Four of Swords. And the Four of Swords is all about basically retreating and taking a step back from maybe people. It's often linked to meditation too. And what I'm getting from this is that it's important that you start focusing on your inner light and your inner wisdom, so that you can get that kind of like knowing again, that internal sun, so that the next time you are in a moment where you can't see, you will be able to see again from that internal guidance, because that will be lighting up your kind of like your moon period again, that moment where you can't see clearly because everything is in the dark. So this card to me is just also reminding you that when you do focus on yourself and you start doing all those practices like meditation, but it doesn't have to just be meditation. It could be going for walks or doing something, where you're doing something mindfully. It could be journaling. It could be also things that have nothing to do with spirituality. It could be like taking up a new hobby, but where you're really kind of like getting to know yourself. These things are so important, because in a way, it's like reminding you that the more you do that work, the more you become who you are, the less you're going to beat yourself over the, it's almost like what you've learned is not, you shouldn't be focusing on how that's going to, like how you wish you could have been, but more now that you've learned that it's going to shine forward, and that you can then use what you learned to become who you are. And that's, to me, is such a huge lesson these days is to see what we go through as lessons for us. And I read something recently that really reminded me of the beauty of that. And it was just reminding me that like a rock, it becomes a diamond through pressure, through hardships, through things that we go through. And that we almost need those things to become who we are, to get that inner light, to be able to shine even when we can't see. And so it's almost like to stop seeing that moment as something embarrassing or something that you really wish you could go back and change, because it's making you who you are today. And so if you can embrace that and stop kind of cringing or being mean to yourself about it, you are then going to be able to become this wise and very grounded person that you can trust again, and that you're going to be able to grow and learn to trust yourself and to be able to rely on yourself and know that even when you do make mistakes because you don't see properly, you are still somebody that you can rely and trust. So on that, I'm wishing you lots of love and lots of laughter as you navigate through this moment of going from the chaos to the beautiful rainbow. Remember to let the past be. I know that can be hard sometimes, but if you can, and if you can learn to actually use it as the lesson that it is, that's going to transform you into the diamond that you are, it will be a lot easier. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next video.